so much for coming on the show today. Could you take a second to introduce yourself and tell us about the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, John. Thanks for having me. I am so excited to be here. So, Elena Suaste, I work at PMI Project Management Institute, and I'm the director for global talent engagement and development there. So, I oversee all things engagement, all things employee experience, and also the development side of things. So, there's some great overlaps there. I'm excited to talk about some of those things today, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm curious from the engagement side. Let's start there because I definitely want to get into some of the development stuff too, specifically around leaders. But just in this day and age, right? There's a lot of changes going on. AI is a huge disruptor in a lot of places. Businesses are restructuring, teams makeup is changing. There's a lot of uncertainty these
Yeah.
days in the workplace. What are you noticing about engagement in that context, and what are you doing about it?
Yeah, there's quite a bit that we're doing about it. I mean, you're right. There's so much going on with AI, and people are fearful of losing their jobs,
Mhm.
being obsolete basically in the workplace. At PMI, at least, it's the complete opposite. So it's a wonderful thing. We're engaging our and encouraging, actually, I should say, our employees to use AI
Okay.
in their everyday work lives so that they can find ways to be more efficient, more productive, and really utilize those tools to help bring their work to life and more quality. I mean, I think AI also helps with overall balance in the work that everyone is doing, at least at PMI, because we're a virtual first environment. We're 100% virtual. So it's really to be expected that our employees would use these types of tools. I'm sure maybe in many other workplaces, there's some worry from employers for employees to use these types of tools, but we've encouraged it. I've written a responsible use of generative AI policy at work, and just to kind of also get a baseline for everyone to understand some of the ways to use AI and be cautious of. So not putting in like proprietary information,
Yeah.
and like chat GPT or anything like that. So we've definitely done a little bit of education around how to use it appropriately when it comes to the work at PMI, because we're a certification institute. So we don't want anyone putting in exam questions or things like that
Right.
could eventually show up out there. So we're very careful of that.
So since you've encouraged employees to use generative AI, right, these large language models to augment their work, that's the term I'm hearing, is it's more like how AI can support it. Are there any wins in this like kind of early term? I guess these are still early days. Are there any processes or things that people have really uh,
Yeah.
gained efficiency or connection or positive output by using AI?
Yeah. So I think, just like most people, I would like to think we're still learning. We're still in the learning phase of really what AI can do for us internally as an organization, right? And so we're definitely finding that, like I mentioned before, that we can be more productive, more efficient in a lot of the work that we're doing as long as we're using it the right way. Our output is quicker and in many areas, right? But we're also finding that we're having to apply critical thinking more as well, which is something that I think everyone needs to be cautious of, especially when using AI tools. You don't want to just spit something out and then have it go out there for everyone to see, and especially if it's published, things like that. So it's important to apply critical thinking. That's actually one of the skills that we've highlighted at PMI, at least, is to really apply critical thinking, not only when it comes to AI, but obviously to everything. I think that makes sense, but is to really, I think that's the human aspect that's so important when using AI, is to, if you're needing the help, great, but does it actually make sense? what it's giving you is equality. What do you need to add to it or contribute to it to make it useful and to make it something special for whoever's reading it out there? So we've done a number of things at PMI to educate employees and make sure that they're using AI, again, in the most responsible way. But in terms of measuring it, we actually, we've done internal audits for ourselves already to understand within each function in each area how they're using it, how it's working for them, what tools they're using, like Copilot. There's different tools like that different teams are using that are useful for them. And so we're still in that learning phase of understanding how efficient it is, helping everyone with everyone's work, how productive everyone is while they're using it. So yeah, still in learning phases, but we're definitely seeing a difference, and we're definitely noticing when it is being used in a good way, in a good way. I think it's something that's saving everyone time. So I'm definitely excited to see how much time it's saving everyone as we continue to measure it in different ways.
Yeah, I too, I love leveraging AI. Once you start to use it a lot, at least how I'm using it, um, there are some things that definitely are like, wait a minute, this is really polished, the language is really smooth, seems all thought out, but what is it actually saying, or is it saying
Right.
the right thing? So I guess that's
Yeah.
kind of where you say that the critical thinking piece comes.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that critical thinking was a skill, right? That you I guess as part of the development side
It
of your
is.
job.
Yeah.
Tell me how critical thinking kind of stacks up against other either leadership or skills that you want from a culture perspective or a learning perspective at PMI.
Yeah. It's one of our core expectations at PMI. So Pierre has come out publicly with his letter of intent for his senior leaders, which are the three S's. And so they're solidarity, substance, and standards. And within those three S's, he has made clear what expectations are for the rest of the organization. So within solidarity, we have collective ownership and personal accountability, for example, are two
Mhm.
expectations under that S. Under substance, it's critical thinking and accurate facts. So like your data accuracy, savviness around data. And then standards is raising the floor and raising the ceiling. So basically, how leaders develop their teams and how they enhance strengths within their teams as well. So that's raising the ceiling, is that whatever strengths there are, keep it going, keep it moving up. And raising the floor is just setting that baseline and being able to performance manage certain individuals or situations to kind of raise up to that baseline. So there really are, those are our core expectations at PMI. Those are 6 expectations that we've identified. And so based on that, we've started to build frameworks around those
Okay.
about how we work internally with just interacting with each other. Again, with a fully remote workforce, we've noticed that we've had to put into place some clarity for everyone to understand, what's expected and where we're headed. And it's all aligned to our strategy, which is PMI Next. And that came out last year, early last year in January.
Okay, what's the high level goals of PMI next?
Well, basically, it's matching our purpose, which is to maximize the project management profession and elevate it for the world. So, that's what the purpose is.
Mhm.
And within that is to really be able to find the tools and the ways to train project management professionals in a way that they are able to make an impact broadly within their professions, because a lot of these project management the project managers have projects, right, that they're working on that really make a huge impact, whether that's for the federal government, whoever that's for. We want to be able to provide the right tools to get them there. And so I mentioned we're a certification institute. So the PMP is our gold standard in
Right.
certifications, and that's what PMI is known for. You know, most established since
I know it well.
1969. Yeah. And most recently, you know, we've rolled out AI tools as well for project management professionals. So we're here to elevate the profession. Yeah.
I love it. So, on one of those S's, you mentioned like uh, human connect. I wanted to know the human connection element to that collective solidarity piece, where there's the personal accountability and the solidarity of this
Collective ownership.
team. Yeah, and being a fully remote team. I guess I'm making an assumption that connecting with humans, right, is still important. Um, if you agree, like how are you building that connectedness and
Yeah.
engagement in a fully virtual organization these days?
It's not easy, Jeff. It's
Okay.
definitely not easy. And I think it's an ongoing challenge that we're always going to have to realize that is something that we'll have to own. And I think that's part
Yeah.
of collective ownership is that we have to understand that we in order for us to be successful in everything that we do, we need to help our teams get there as well. And so it's about what makes each person tick, you know, what makes them more engaged. You know, we have our annual engagement surveys, we have things that we look at, we have focus groups, we have many different ways to collect feedback from our employees, our team members, right, to understand what we can do better. And so understanding there's always something to improve upon. I think the important thing is to show progress, to definitely show progress, which thankfully we have over the past several years. We've shown progress in engagement at PMI, but no one's perfect, right? No one's perfect. And so we have to find ways to create those connections in different ways because things resonate differently with everyone. And so, where it may be in the area of well-being, what do you do? Do you build? I mean, we have, you know, we have certain wellness programs that we've implemented over the years. We've done certain engagement groups like communities of practice for teams to get together and share knowledge and talk to each other. We have study groups, you know, if internal team members are going for a certification themselves. So there's different ways that we have to implement. I mean, I shouldn't say we have to. They're really things that we know we want to do if we want to remain active and engagement and helping our team succeed because we just know that that's what's best for everyone in the end.
Yeah, I noticed since COVID, when everybody really put the test to can we perform things virtually and still be high impact? I feel like that's also when we started to see the rise of a lot of well-being or wellness programs.
Yeah.
Do you see any overlap in like the wellness, well-being space and like the leadership and connectivity engagement space?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there always is, and I think there always has been, regardless of a virtual environment or not. There's always a connection between um, well-being, physically and mentally, and the connection to leadership. I mean, this is the reason why I mentioned our CEO Pierre has implemented these three S's and expectations for everyone is to help provide clarity and help there be an understanding that there's a top-down effect that happens. And so the expectation for our executive team, for our senior leaders, is to do what they can to engage their teams, to communicate with their teams in the best way so that they can feel valued and they can feel seen and empowered, you know, so that everyone understands they're on the same mission. And when there is a disconnect, it's apparent, right? We see it. And so, I mean, who wants to go to work and not have a great relationship with their manager, right? So we really want to find ways um, to enhance, improve, build upon those relationships because we know that they make an impact on everyone at work. Yeah.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree of the importance. And when like you mentioned that the executive and senior leadership team, the expectations that they have to kind of I guess care for and bring out the best of their teams. Um, and this is a little bit like it's not new and it's new. I think it's new in the sense that it's a little bit deeper and it seems higher stakes because we've noticed that mental health and well-being are what are taking people away from work more than anything right now. So um, what type of tools do you equip leaders with who've never really maybe had to deal with well-being or emotions in the workplace? Do you have any tips or ideas on how leaders who are kind of now expected to take this on too, in addition to a lot of their other work, what's a good approach or a mindset for that?
So there's different approaches that we take. I mean, one is, for example, the 70-20-10 model. You know, we look at obviously formal education is important to us because again, certification institute. So we look at what can we bring as far as training goes so that these leaders and really everyone understands how to have a great feedback session with their team members, how to have great conversations, how to handle crucial conversations, how to lean into conflict in the best way. So we really take several avenues to do that, and we've rolled out several programs um, to activate that skill in leaders and help them find ways to apply it in the virtual environment that we're in. We talked about connection. A lot of it has to do with connection. So when we roll out these programs, they're in a cohort manner, for example, and so we have to, create those connections with each other, and so that everyone learns from each other. So we're trying, we have like panels and things like that. We have yearly, now we do have like a yearly meeting where everyone gets together from a management
In
standpoint.
person?
And yeah, all leaders. Yeah, all leaders. So leaders of people, they get together in person, and there's a wonderful agenda of just a lot of engagement, understanding the organization more, how we can contribute to that, but how it applies to us too. So there's different ways that we do that, and again, because it just for each individual, they see it differently wherever they're at. I mean, we operate across 8 regions, so we're global,
Yeah.
completely global organization with different time zones. And so part of what we've done is just kind of go back to basics too, is understanding, that the expectation with people in different time zones, what are their hours like? What are you considering when you have conversations and where there's work that comes up, and how you're communicating to your teams that are in a completely different time zone from you, right? I have several team members on my team that are in completely different time zones than I am. And so I always try to be conscientious of when I'm sending them a Teams chat or when I'm trying to ask them for something, because it all leads to what their stress levels might be. So I think for every leader, what we try to instill is consider the ways that you're communicating and how those impact your team.
Mm, okay. You mentioned how you handle conflict, right? Um, the name of the podcast is Interaction, and it's kind of a throw to the fact that like your company can have the best culture, you can have the greatest mission statement, outwardly facing, and even internally have a great rep. But
Yeah.
on that individual level, like you could have one interaction with the boss or witness that something, and it can like make or break if you
Yeah.
feel connected to the place anymore or feel like you have a spot there. I feel like that ties into then that connectedness and that engagement. And I hear about the importance of that in innovation as well. In a previous conversation, you and I were talking a little bit about psychological safety so that like, okay, if you've got counterpoints and disruptive to the status quo ideas, if you don't create that space where somebody feels safe enough to interject or bring it up, or if they saw what happened to the last person when they brought it up and it didn't go well, I might be quiet. How do you like handle like creating that space when it's down to that individual leader and their teams and that interaction so often? What is the approach to try to get it right?
Well, I think the first thing is to really be able to encourage speaking up, right?
Okay.
If you see something, say something. We have certain compliance programs that we instill, like our civil treatment
Sure.
program, for example. It's huge. It's something that we've even looked at recently and refreshed and put out there so that everyone can see the scenarios that could possibly relate to them in the workplace. And so it's having somewhere to go to voice their concerns and voice some issues if it's not with their direct manager, which always, we encourage
Yeah.
that that's the ideal. But if that's not happening, then you have a place to go to, right? So we have global talent for that, and we have several individuals who are assigned to the various functions at PMI. And so what we do is we try to be present in the spaces that are casual spaces, not just when there's something critical happening or a huge change, because then everything that is associated with, for example, HR global talent is then associated with big change or big, uh, issues or things that are going on. Is we try to integrate ourselves in other types of meetings and one-on-ones with leaders or team members at all levels, so that they don't just see us as like the hiring and firing type of
Right. Uh-oh, HR's here.
stigma, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
HR has everywhere, right? It's
Right,
not a
yeah.
very positive stigma, which we understand. It
Sure.
comes with the territory. Uh, but so we try to, so there's different ways to voice your concerns and opinions, right? And I think the important thing is just to listen and then to address the situation as quickly as possible. Because again, we've talked about all of these things that create connection. And in a virtual environment, people want to be seen. And how do they do that? Is they want to feel like they belong. And to feel like they belong is they want to feel like they have somewhere to go to, because they know they're part of a team. They know they're part of a broader purpose, and they can contribute. And so we have to find ways to be able to listen and address situations in a way where, I mean, sometimes you don't always make everyone happy, but in a way that really lends to integrity of the situation, and addressing it in a way that again, that is integral and um, important for them to understand why something is happening, or for us to understand. A lot of things that people bring to us are learnings for us, and things that we understand we have to do differently, which is okay. And we welcome this.
All right. So, one of the downsides of learning and development that I came up against when I was in corporate environment full time was that the expectation was that if you take a class, once you've completed the class, that you will have adopted these skills and you have adopted them well, and going forward, it'll all be done. And that that almost never happens, right? Do you have a solution for, or do you see that, or do you have any like touch points along the way that can kind of um, be lower stakes ways for people to build these skills? Because so much of this work on connection feels high stakes, and if you get it wrong in front of everybody, you might, get canceled or pegged with that, especially if the environment isn't psychologically safe. Like, how do you ensure that kind of whatever's learned or whatever's part of that development is actually, practiced and honed over time?
So I truly do believe that communicating things in different ways in different channels, of the organization will reach everyone, as long as there is the right type of repetition. So we believe that it's it's okay to make mistakes, right? It's okay to make mistakes. Everyone, is human. And we expect there to be a human element to everything that we do. And that includes, speaking up, talking about issues, talking about mistakes. And so I think this is something that we need to continue to repeat. I mean, you mentioned psychological safety. It's a big it's a big area that we went into really deep at PMI, and we really wanted everyone to understand where they contribute, what their purpose is at PMI. And so we made a big effort to do that. But you're right, it's an ongoing effort, and it's something that we can't just, okay, we did this and we're good and everyone knows.
Everybody feels psychologically safe now.
Yeah, everyone, no, because I mean, people come and go too. So we have
Right.
to keep up with, keep up with new people coming in. And everyone loves to hire the best of the best, right? But again, no one is perfect. And so how are we keeping up with training these skills, these expectations that I mentioned, in an ongoing basis? And it's really integrating them in everything that we do, integrating them in performance management, integrating them into our town hall meetings, and talking about them often. And any new initiative is having the tie-in to what it means for those skills that are important to us. Having programs that really lend to increasing that skill and applying it in different ways. So it's never just a one and done, type of situation. We understand that in order to get better at something, it's going to take time, practice, and it's going to take a different method for, depending on who you are. So we record trainings, we have live trainings, we have 30-minute trainings, we have longer 90-minute trainings, we have leaders involved, or we have a panel, so there's different things that we try to do to really keep these skills, going. And having people improve. We encourage everyone to have like their own professional development plan. So that's something that we've implemented that everyone is doing is, for example, I have my own professional development plan. And so really having those conversations with leaders, not just about the work once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever that cadence is, but also talking about, hey, where are you at? How are you doing? What do you aspire to do? How can I help you get there? Those types of conversations we've encouraged everyone to have. Yeah.
I noticed in your bio that you're also a certified coach. I work with a lot of executives in a coaching capacity, and I work with a lot of emerging leaders. With your experience and your background as a coach, right? Let's say that new leader who really wants to like climb into the ranks of that C-suite leadership or that executive level leadership. What are your top skills or tips you think that they should make sure that they acquire to help really, really pave a runway for that level of leadership?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's such a loaded question because so many skills come to mind. But if I think about the top few, I mean, relationship building is always going to be there, even in virtual environments. I think even especially in
Especially in
virtual
virtual, yeah.
environments, relationship building is key, which I do think is something that can be easily put on the side when
Yeah.
you are a virtual organization. You're even more isolated. And if you isolate yourself too much and no one knows what you're doing or what you're up to, or it seems like you have no interest into what they're doing, it's not going to help. So definitely relationship building, that networking is always going to be key. And along with that is to find a mentor, is to find someone who you can continuously learn from, who you can bounce ideas off of, who you can talk to about your experiences. As a coach, I've strongly believed in the concept of having someone to, in a non-judgmental way, to guide you through the things that you could be doing better or that you could be doing to, to learn and grow, or that you could reflect on, to get to the next place. of wherever that is that you want to be. So that is huge as well. Communication is another one too. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
stress that enough, right? I mean, even though AI is taking over a huge aspect of the way that we communicate, it doesn't take away of how we communicate with each other, how we interact with each other,
Right.
right?
Right.
So how do you make someone feel, right? I mean, Maya Angelou said it best when she said, you know, people don't remember necessarily what you said, they remember how you make them feel. And so it's, you know, it's so important to think about those things as we're communicating, how things are coming across. When you talk about transparency, does that transparency lend to positive disruption or good disruption, or negative disruption? You know, how transparent are you? What approach are you taking really for that? So communication is key. There's always a reason to, it's always good to know um, what organization you're a part of and understand what your overall goal is as a team. So the
Right.
business savviness, I think, is another key skill.
Mm.
Even if it's an even if it's for yourself or working for yourself, right? Which like you do, John. It's you have your own vision and mission and purpose,
Hmm.
and so having that clear makes it clear to your audience what they're listening to, what they're, you know, interested in, and it's what makes them follow you. So it's really having that personal brand is the other key skill that I think is important, is having a clear personal brand. What do people say about you? How would they describe you?
Right.
In a prior organization, we would often say, what would someone wear your t-shirt, right? If they were advocating for you, so, you know, would they buy your merch?
They
So
buy
these
your book.
are
I love it.
things, yeah, that we have to think about is um, yeah, we want to be able to have that impact in such a way that definitely, you know, it goes beyond just the individual in front of us, but it
Yeah.
definitely extends.
So that, I mean, I was hoping for like the top one or two, but it's clear. It's clear. Like leadership is tough. It is a real like symphony of skills that need to be kind of in concert together to really get it right.
Well, and specific to leadership, I can't forget development. I mean, developing your people and knowing
Mm.
how to do that is one of those things that I've often seen in my years in HR. And as I've been able to progress in my career, is that it really, there's a huge difference between a leader who's really out for themselves, for their own shine, versus developing their teams and realizing that their team is really what makes them shine. It's really what, you know, really takes them to the next level and helps them build that credibility as a leader. So developing your people is so important.
Yeah, that's a real common transition piece, right? Because so oftentimes the climb to leadership is getting like the focus on you and your skill and your value, and then you get there and it's like that gets a little, sidelined because it then
Yeah,
becomes how can I, you know, bring up the people that I'm responsible for.
that's right.
Oh, Elena, I feel like we could talk forever. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom and the good stuff. I really those three S's are gonna stick with me. So thank you
Good.
so much for coming on today and sharing all of that with us. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for having me, John.